Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope this finds everyone well. And was in the house here doing some organizing, going through stuff, and I found some old tavern puzzles. Are you guys familiar with these old-timey metal puzzles? And they were made by blacksmiths back in the 1800s. And they were puzzles that were used in, well, taverns or inns or I would say bars or community get-togethers, and they were a fun thing for people to try to figure out. And there's so many different versions and complexities of these old tavern puzzles. And I had a neighbor when I was growing up. His name was Tony, and a nice couple. If there was ever a couple I can remember that had a true, genuine marriage, it was Tony and Claire. They lived a couple miles up the road, and I will forever remember them. Tony and Claire, and good people. And Tony was a farmer, and he used to do excavating on the side because he had tractors and a bulldozer and the front end loaders and all that. And he had such a demand for his services to dig ditches or ponds, he got out of farming and became had a full-time excavating business. And when he retired, one of his hobbies was making birdhouses. He would make these whirly jigs. I'll post a couple pictures where they were wind-powered things, where it was either a duck flying and the wings would fly, or a wood chopper, or a man sawing wood. There's so many different varieties of these things called whirly jigs, and he would make those in his shop. And he would make letter openers. I still have the letter openers that he made, and he even wrote his name on there, Tony, engraved on it. He's been dead for years and years. But yet I still have, well, he even made one for my late mother, Carolyn, engraved her name on it. Who knows how many letters my mother opened with this handmade letter opener that he made with his own hands. And some of the things that he made were these recreations of these old-timey tavern puzzles. And these were when I was a kid. And I found them and I thought, can I still remember how to solve these puzzles? So here I am trying to figure them out. So here's one. I had to look it up what the names were. This one's called Old Shackles. And this one here, this object is you have to get this ring off. So it took me some maneuvering around to figure this out. Yeah, it takes some figuring out to, yeah, see that? It takes some figuring to how do you get it now back on the thing. And that's the challenge with these old look at that. There it is. We're back on. So yes, it takes some working to figure it out. So there's the old shackles. Let's see. I found this one online. This one's called, well, actually no. Let's do this one. This one's the Iron Heart. And then you have to get the heart off. So you have to kind of work it around let's see, you got to stick it through here and then up and then off. And then getting it back on. Let's see, you got to go back here, through here, back around, out, and there's your iron heart. Look at this one. I couldn't find this one online. I don't even know what this one's called. But I had to play around with it for a little while, remembering back. So yeah, this was back when I was a kid. Had these things. Us kids trying to figure this stuff out. And let's see, it goes through here. Then you have to go up, around, through. Ta-da! And there's the ring. You get the ring off, and then to get it back on, you got to go through here. Let's see. Is it back around? Yeah, there's that one. Let's see. Here's another one. What's this one called? The Conestoga Playmate. Wonder how they caught that name back in the day. But let's see if we can remember how to do this puppy. Let me see here. You got to go, let me see, up. Bear with me. It's been a while, folks. This stuff will drive you cuckoo. Hey, I think I figured it out. Look. This will drive you nuts. Yeah, so you got to get the ring off. Conestoga Playmate. Oh boy. Oh boy. What's this one called? The Dirty Dog. This is the Dirty Dog Tavern Puzzle. Can you imagine having, after a few drinks, the guys around the table trying to figure this one out? Come on, Clyde, you can figure it out. All right, let's see, Jim. Let's see if we can figure it out. The key is to get this off. The shuttle, is that what it's called? So I think you come up through here, around, no. Back through here, here, and then through here. So now you got it on this centerpiece. Then you got to go, I think you got to go back through this loop, this ring here, I think. And then, oh my gosh, I'm going nuts, folks. Way, and then, oh. Holy crap, y'all. Let me see. You go through here. You go through here, here, then you go like so, and then here, and then, ta-da, I got it off. Oh my gosh, then you got to come back, throw this through here, back through here, back to that, back through here to here to here, and there it is, back to the starting point. This one will drive you cuckoo. Yeah, these are good for the brain. Good puzzles. And which reminds me, we don't really do enough of this anymore, where we're working our minds. Remember the old-timey toys and, before all the internet and all of our social medias and phones and computers, entertainment. People had to entertain themselves. They didn't have the TVs and the movies and the Netflix and the YouTubes and the all of the streaming services that we have now. People had to be creative. And I think we have lost a bit of our creativity in life. Where people used to read and write books and come up with ideas and learn to play an instrument and use their minds and their brains to come up with things like this. I mean, just imagine. And I'm just absolutely amazed by those who have an engineering mind and are good with numbers and can figure things out. And I mean, you just look at anything from the way that a watch is made, the old watches or the old wind-up clocks, and you see all the levers and gears and pulleys and inner workings of these old pieces of equipment that somebody had to sit down, design, and think about in their mind. It is really quite remarkable how some people's brains work. And I've heard it said that we only use a small portion of our brain. And just think that if we applied ourselves, what we could come up with and design and make and be creative. And so anyway, I found this stuff and I wanted to share it with you. And so it challenges me. It makes me think about, how can I better challenge myself and work my brain, and do some more creativity, more thinking, and working more with the hands like Tony used to do in his shop up the road, and he would make all these things. And I can remember these were the people I grew up with here in rural Ohio, are these old-time farmers who were self-reliant. And a lot of them were self-taught people and had no more than a 10th grade education, didn't even graduate high school, and they were very smart people and self-taught people. And I can remember another neighbor up the road, Edwin was his name. And I think the farthest he ever traveled was just over the state line in Pennsylvania, where he delivered a truck. Other than that, he stayed his whole 80, how old was Edwin when he died? He was well into his 80s, 87, 88. And spent his whole life in the state of Ohio. And I heard it said, you grow where you're planted. And that was the way some people were. They didn't really venture out very far from their home. And back in the day, you only went as far as your horse could go. Or when people paired up, you just met people in your local area. That's who they married. They didn't have online dating and all of that kind of thing and have all the options that we have now, which I think is a little too much in choosing mates, but that's the way it was. And I can remember Edwin had his own shop and he could weld. He had a lathe. He could machine his own tools. They could make their own bolt, had his own threading machine where he can put the threads onto the bolt. Whatever they needed, they could, for the most part, make it and fabricate and make it themselves. And this was back in the days of the threshing machines. And I can remember Edwin telling me about the steam engines and threshing wheat. And I remember walking in his old barn, and he still had the old belts hanging in the barn because everything was belt driven. You know, they'd hook it up onto the steam engine, and whatever tool, whether it was a sawmill, threshing machine, everything was belt driven. And I can still remember those old belts in his barn, and he telling me stories of the steam engine days. So I and here's the other crazy thing is they still had an outhouse in their house. And I think they were the last house. Well, actually, they never got indoor plumbing. And Edwin's attitude was, my father lived that way, I'm going to live that way. And so when we would go down and visit Edwin and Evelyn, if you had to use the bathroom, you had to go outside and use the outhouse. And I still remember using that outhouse. And it was like going back in time, that old house. And I can still remember that screen porch door, that screen door with the metal spring on it. And you can just hear it open and close and the way it would slam. I can still remember the sound of that old screen porch door closing. And they still use the old skeleton key to open and close their doors. I still remember that. And they never did get indoor plumbing. They had running water in the kitchen, and that was it. But to take showers, they did it the old school way, down in the basement, sponge baths. That's how they took a bath. And but yes, they had the old white porcelain knobs in the house, the old creaky wooden floors in there with the rugs. And I still remember the old wallpaper on the walls. I mean, this is going back in time, that house and the old furniture that was in there from Edwin's family. And, you know, my dad moved into this house back in 1969 and remodeled it. And he had some extra materials, and he was willing to help Edwin put a bathroom in the house, and he refused to do it. And I always felt bad for his wife, and that he wasn't thinking about her and, you know, and her comfort. And he was sometimes could be a little bit ornery, you know. But the interesting thing, you know, he passed away, and then Evelyn, she continued on. She lived, I think, into her 90s, and her eyesight started going bad, and she ended up in a nursing home. And that was the first time that she had running water to where she can actually take a bath. She could take a bath in a shower. And I just thought, you know, how sad was that? You know, in the nursing home is where she got to experience the running water in a bathroom, where she could actually, instead of a sponge bath, could actually take a shower in a bath and have a bathroom sink and a vanity and all of that. And I talked to her sister, and that she actually enjoyed it. She liked it there and was being, you know, well taken care of there. But and then the house, you know, has been now years ago torn down and has a house built in the place of it now. But that bit of history that I had the honor and privilege to to experience it. It was living history. And I can still remember it, and the old barns that were on the property, the chicken coop, and the corn crib, and to hear the stories of these old timers talking. And these were people born in the early 1900s. And to hear their stories here growing up, and the farming, and the way life was back then. And I'll forever treasure it. I'll forever remember it. And going down and having dinner with them. We would have dinner with them. This was back in a time where neighbors helped neighbors. And such fond memories of going down there. And Evelyn, she was a great cook. And her homemade mashed potatoes, her homemade cakes, and just good, wholesome, homemade cooking. And Edwin loved his roast beef, and they always had a plate of bread on the table with the block of butter in the butter tray. Bread and butter always, and I could still see him drinking his coffee. Even in the evening, he could drink coffee, butter that bread, ate what he wanted. He was one of those types that could pretty much eat what he wanted. I could still see him, if in the morning he would eat black toast, and then his wife saved the bacon grease, and he would put bacon grease on that black toast and eat it for breakfast. And drink it with the coffee and some eggs. And that was breakfast, And never worried about cholesterol or any of that. And his attitude was, you got to keep moving, staying active. And something that I had noticed with some of those old timers is they could eat like that, but the one thing I noticed about them is that they were all hardworking and active people, well up into their late ages. So I often remembered that. So, but not everybody can live like that and tolerate eating like that. But I did notice they didn't eat all the processed food like we did either. And Edwin wasn't a big guy on eating too much sugar. He didn't eat all that junk food, So I guess there's something to be said for that as well. But anyway, I wanted to share that story time, reminiscing of a bygone era and the people that have gone before us. Perhaps you can remember people in your own family, friends, neighbors, and their old stories and the old way of living. And then nowadays, it's all computers and where we're headed with AI. So a lot of good things, exciting things happening, and all the advances in medicine is really awesome and cool. But at the same time, there's just something about the old way of doing things where you didn't have all the mass media and bombarded with all this information. No cell phones, no iPhones, where people got together and sat on the porches and talked. And we used to make ice cream down there too, homemade ice cream, and fellowship and talk, shared stories. And we're definitely missing it today. We're missing that community and family time and neighbors being neighbors and talking and chatting and sharing those stories. And now we're just working our butts off, hardly have time to say anything other than a hello as ships in the night now. We talk to neighbors and friends now. It's just so different now. And but I guess we have to make more of a conscious effort to be more friendly and neighborly now. Civic engagement is down. We're not community-minded anymore. A lot of those A lot of those communities like your Lions clubs and Rotaries and VFWs and all of that stuff are closing doors now. Closing doors. But I guess it's just going by like the horse and buggy. Bygone era like these. Anyway, hope this finds you well. Take care. Be safe again. I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.